Laura, it is about the rule of law. This is a bipartisan issue. It transcends partisan politics. That's why a conservative-leaning Supreme Court has said that Donald Trump must facilitate the return of this individual. This is very dangerous. We are turning into an authoritarian country, and there are Americans from all across the political spectrum who are deeply concerned about this. Again, my office has not received more calls about any other issue since I have been a congresswoman than this one.
Hi again, everybody. It's 5 o'clock in New York following her trip to El Salvador, where she and 3 other Democratic lawmakers had tried to meet with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Congresswoman Ansari of Arizona was out there advocating for the rule of law on Fox News, raising the alarm about what could happen if due process is ignored and even thwarted right here in America. That fight for due process escalated late yesterday as a federal judge handling the case of Abrego Garcia's release, Judge Paula Zinnes, put out a searing 8-page order calling out the Trump administration. Abrego Garcia's lawyers had told the judge yesterday morning that the DOJ had, quote, produced nothing of substance to their questions about what steps have been taken to bring Abrego Garcia back, prompting Judge Zinnes to voice her clear frustration in this new order. Quote, defendant's objection reflects a willful and bad faith refusal to comply with discovery obligations. Judge Zinnes goes on to say this, quote, for weeks, defendants have sought refuge behind vague and unsubstantiated assertions of privilege, using them as a shield to obstruct discovery and evade compliance with this court's orders. Defendants have known, at least since last week, that this court requires specific legal and factual showings to support any claim of privilege. Yet they have continued to rely on boilerplate assertions. That ends now. She gave DOJ until 6 p.m. today, about 1 hour from right now, to provide all the requested information. So far, we have not heard that what she has asked for has been presented. This judge's scathing words about the actions of the Trump Department of Justice are just another piece in the pushback against the administration's larger attack on the rule of law in America. The New York Times reports this, quote, the White House's repeated resistance to court orders, not only in Mr. Abrego Garcia's case, but in other legal proceedings as well, has edged the administration ever closer to an open showdown with the judicial branch in a way that could threaten the constitutional balance of power. That showdown is where we start this hour. Some of our favorite experts and friends. Voting rights attorney and founder of Democracy Docket, Mark Elias, is here with me at the table. Democratic Congressman Dan Goldman of New York. He served as lead counsel in the first Trump impeachment and now represents New York in Congress. Tell me what you think, wearing all of your hats, as a member of Congress, as a former prosecutor, of this standoff, and are we already where people are warning we're heading?
I don't think we're quite there yet. I think we get there if there are contempt proceedings and if the administration ultimately just defies a contempt order. There's sort of an escalating enforcement mechanism with the courts, but we are getting awfully, awfully close. And it's not just in this case. It's in the Alien Enemies Act case with Judge Boasberg and Judge Wilkinson's just brilliant, powerful opinion last week. And ultimately, it's not really in dispute here. I think if you say to anyone, what does facilitate mean? As Judge Wilkinson says, it means to do something, right? You have to actually do something. And the Trump administration is saying they don't have to do anything. And that's not, it's really not a material dispute as to which one is right. Their obligation is to help get Mr. Abrego Garcia back so that he can get due process. Nobody is saying that the courts are not saying he needs to come back so that he can stay forever. It's just that in this country, we operate on the rule of law, which requires due process, and that a king, we have no kings who get to decide whether you're a member of MS-13 or not. You are put to your proof. You must show that he is a member of MS-13, if that's what your allegation is, and then a judge a court of law, not the executive branch or a lawyer, gets to decide whether or not you are a member of MS-13. And if you are, and they've designated it as a foreign terrorist organization, then you can remove the withholding order and you can send him back. But you have to go through that process. And the reason why this is important is not just this case. It's that if we avoid or evade due process in this one case, then this government can do it in every case, and our entire system breaks down. And that is how we go into pure authoritarianism and not democracy.
I mean, and that is an argument that even Joe Rogan seems to grasp and agree with, that without due process, depending on who is in the office of the presidency, we stop being the country that we think we are. The Trump administration seems to be engaged in a different project, right? They want to paint Democrats as being against deporting people who are dangerous or criminals. But they seem to have lost that round and not yet recognized that. That round also seems to be predicated on a bunch of disinformation and misinformation, as the Reagan-appointed judge you referenced points out. When they say he's a gang member, he writes, perhaps, right. but charge him and try it out. How do you make sure that the pro-democracy side in the Democratic Party continues to be able to get the facts out in what has, I guess, up until now, been a pretty solid and air-sealed information ecosystem on the right?
Well, part of it is what you showed at the beginning, which is Congresswoman Ansari going on Laura Ingraham on Fox News. I try to get on Fox News every week. I have difficulty doing it.
Who do you call? Where do you want to go?
I'll go on any show. I think it's really important for us to talk to other people from other viewpoints. And I don't like the fact that networks are selective as to what party they will put on. And it's important for us to talk to Fox News and other people and Joe Rogan and anyone where people are interested and engaged and want to know the facts. I'm game to go on there, because this isn't about MS-13. It's not about terrorism. They're just wrong about that. This is political for them. They're trying to distract from the absolutely disastrous economic policies and tariffs that Donald Trump has implemented, that is increasing prices, increasing inflation, tanking the stock market, and sending us directly into a recession because all businesses are retrenching and are not spending any money and are laying off employees. So to them, as long as we're talking about immigration, we're better off. But this isn't about immigration. This isn't about whether he's a terrorist or not, MS-13. This is just about the fundamental values, the very basic things that our country has relied on that make us a democracy. If we don't have due process, if we don't have the rule of law, if Donald Trump is telling the Department of Justice to criminally investigate people who spoke out against him, we are a banana republic. This is exactly what then Vice President Joe Biden went to Ukraine to do in 2015, and he told the Ukrainian president, you must fire the prosecutor general or we will not support a $1 billion loan that you would otherwise get from the IMF. And why did he want that prosecutor general fired? Because that prosecutor general was corrupt and was only prosecuting his enemies and was protecting his allies. We export democracy around the world in that way. And now Donald Trump is doing that very thing. That's where we've come in 10 years.
Is DOJ under Pam Bondi corrupt?
If they investigate Chris Krebs and Miles Taylor because Donald Trump told them to do it, yes. That is contrary to every norm, value, concept, and moral integrity of the Department of Justice. That is a banana republic. And if they execute that order, then they are absolutely part and parcel of the corruption.
And what is the distinction of what happened in the Eric Adams case and that case? What line do you think are we on? Are we in the way station between something that's still predicated on the rule of law and something that would be corrupt? Or where do you think we are after the dismissals of all the prosecutors involved in the Eric Adams case?
I think what they did in the Eric Adams case was to politically weaponize the Department of Justice and the criminal justice system. He had been charged through a grand jury with proper procedures. And what the administration tried to do is use a criminal prosecution to implement and execute their political policy priorities. That is, of course, unacceptable. That is not how it's done. And the judge rightly called them out on it and said, OK, well, you want to dismiss the case, fine, but you're not going to get the hammer that and the political benefit that you wanted. In this case, this is just outright corruption. And in Kilmar's case, it's just undermining very, very basic tenets. Like, if we don't have due process, we've got nothing. And we don't have the rule of law, then it's not just that every immigration case or criminal case is undermined. It's when Donald Trump says, I'm just canceling this grant that you've already received, and I'm clawing it back, or I'm canceling this collective bargaining agreement because I don't like it. Well, then every business in America can say, I don't like this contract, and my president is just nullifying his contracts. I'm just going to nullify my contract. If we don't have settled rule of law, our country will collapse.